You are now listening to the Masters Mahan podcast.
Episode 15. The 13 Illuminati Bloodlines Continued. Part 3. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones.
Abuse is a grievous sin. Any kind of abuse of women, children, or anyone is an abomination to the Lord. Those who perpetrate these hideous acts are not only accountable to the laws of man, but will also face the wrath of Almighty God.
I have faith that the Constitution will be saved by the righteous citizens of the United States who love and cherish freedom.
In coming days, we will see the greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. Between now and the time he returns with power and great glory, he will bestow countless privileges, blessings, and miracles upon the faithful.
Let's continue with our exploration of the worldwide 13 hand-mentored satanic bloodlines, using the Springmeier genealogical classifications by stepping into the darkness, or as some Luciferians trigger, I'm going to get you, my little pretty.
Welcome to Pedophile Dramas. Today's revolting episode, I'm Going to Get You My Little Pretty, features the enormous Dick Cheney.
And is brought to you by former program presidential sex toy Kathy O'Brien.
I hear him. He's coming.
Oh no, not the hourglass game again.
Are we ready?
Please don't make us watch your stupid hourglass and scare us to do what you want.
We're tired of your sick games.
We're now in a very, very dangerous situation where if you don't do what I want for you to do, then the meat axe falls.
Not the meat axe.
I'll get you, my pretty.
The Rockefeller Bloodline. In the United States, one of the most ominous of the 13 is the Rockefeller Bloodline. And surprise, surprise, we have another rag to riches. The two most prized resources of Mother Earth are her poop, which we call crude oil, and her poppies. It is from these that the original concepts of sorcery were developed: alchemy and pharmacy. Today, we call the more correct concepts learned from these science. But to the ancients, these were magic. They still see it this way, and in fact, there is still more in science than modern man wants to admit. The easiest examples of this are Darwinism and Pasteurism, more globally known as Pasteurian germ theory. It is interesting to note that both of these theories are today being proclaimed as facts without any facts to back that up. Where some illuminates hide behind corporations, the Rockefellers have used trusts and foundations primarily to their advantage. Actually, they have created so many that no one actually knows how many they control today. It has been estimated that these hidden trusts within secret foundations within hidden trusts amount to over 1,000 points of light.
1,000 points of light. I've spoken of 1,000 points of light.
During dream
flame and 1,000 points of light.
All the rhetoric you used to hear, the 1,000 points of light. What the hell was that, by the way? 1,000 points of light. I never quite got that one. I'm trying to say, what the hell is that? Has anyone ever figured that one out?
Due to these laws, the rich actually pay little to no taxes. It is no secret that during his lifetime, Nelson Rockefeller, and Ted Kennedy too, paid 0 taxes, even though Nelson may have been the richest man in the entire United States. They do this because they personally own nothing, but they control everything. The Rockefellers spend enormous resources in controlling education, medical education, and theological education in the United States. Here is a short example. They provide a huge share of the money that theological seminaries in the United States need to operate. They provide a large share of the money that universities need to operate. Education influences the religious values of any people. They provide large grants to various religious organizations. Their influence and control helps determine who will get publicity in the major news magazines and on television. Their influence contributes to many anti-Christian organizations being set up all around the world. They directly control certain religious groups, such as the Lucis Trust. They help found and forward agendas, such as Agenda 21, and the more concerning, now, Agenda 2030. You should look these up on the internet. One famous Rockefeller is David Rockefeller, who is said to be the man who set up and built the famous Georgia Guidestones, called America's Stonehenge, and looking rather like large 10 Commandments. They were written with the following inscriptions, which in 4 languages stated the following guidelines to help the stupider masses of mankind accomplish the following goals. 1. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Please note, today human population is around 8 billion, which raises the question, how are you going to maintain humanity under 500 million without killing 7.5 billion people?
Ouch!
2. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Isn't that what Hitler tried to do with his breeding programs in an attempt to create super white men with their improved fitness and diverse biology? 3. Unite humanity with a living new language. What the hell is that? 4. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. You mean like the Age of Reason that Napoleon and Hitler tried? 5. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. That sounds nice, as long as we get to determine what's fair and just, and it isn't pressed upon us from on high, like the communists do with their vanguard. 6. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. You mean like The Hague or the United Nations? Who picks those judges? And who is in charge of the world court? 7. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. What are petty laws? And who are useless officials? You mean like local policemen? 8. Balance personal rights with social duties.
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Or the one.
9. Prize truth, beauty, and love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Well, that's Platoism. 10. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature, stated twice. Since only humanity can read this, humanity is the cancer. Is this not the definition of the modern push for sustainability? The rather brilliant and controversial J. Wiedner has noted that the pseudonym of the man who commissioned these stones, R.C. Christian, is a wordplay on Rose Cross Christian or Christian Rosencrantz, the founder of the Rosicrucian Luciferian English order.
Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves.
This is a form of sex magic. Where the rose is the vagina and the cross is the phallus with its testicles.
Hubba hubba. Stop that.
In a sense, it is a recreation of the Egyptian Ankh. More on sex magic at another time.
Hubba hubba.
This Rosicrucian observation is collaborated in the first manifesto of the Rosicrucians, written in 1614, which states, "The word RC should be our seal, mark, and character." It was the hope of all prominent Rosicrucians that the Age of Reason would break forth and end Christianity. Remember Napoleon and the French Age of Reason? These Guidestones have been vandalized many times and were at last blown up by someone on July 6th, 2022, which also happens to be George Baby Bush's birthday. We mentioned before that the felling of the Twin Towers in 2001 is said in the occult to be the sacrifice needed to bring forth Apollyon, the destroyer, and that this had been planned since the building of the structure by the Rockefellers. Before you that away too quickly, do an internet search for David Rockefeller 9/11 watch picture and see what comes up. David had wanted to be the reigning king in Jerusalem, the Prince David of Judah's line foretold by Ezekiel. He hung on as long as he could, but in the end he died, like Daddy Bush, and went the way of all the earth. Everyone dies in time. Although David did hang on buying other organs from people, and made it to the year 101. Before his death, in his memoir, cleverly titled Memoirs, on page 405, he wrote, "Some believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, a one-world government, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and am proud of it." This has always been the single goal of the Illuminati since it was founded. When speaking of the Rockefellers, it is useful to know that the occult believes in forced bastardization. They teach that the only reason that Jesus Christ gained power and eminence on earth was because he was raised by a stepfather. Fans of Game of Thrones might remember the entire, spoiler alert people, series plot about Jon Snow Targaryen.
I'm a bastard.
It's the same idea in the occult. So in order to guarantee that some of their seed gain eminence, a high wizard will breed a lowly Mary, and then have their child raised by her and a stepfather. They whisper, and we are not confirming any of this here, that Billy Clinton's true father is Nelson Rockefeller, and that Justin Trudeau's true father is David Rockefeller's friend, Fidel Castro. Who knows?
Not many Americans pay attention to Canada. The entire country could disappear and it wouldn't make the nightly news here. But we watch what's happening in Canada because it's fascinating. How could such a nice country become totalitarian so quickly? Are there lessons for us? Well, for example, a high school student in Canada has been arrested for declaring that men and women are different. Josh Alexander attended St. Joseph's High School, Catholic high school in Renfrew, Ontario. He was barred from school from the grounds for saying that God created two genders, because that's kind of a Christian precept and also common sense. When he showed up for class, police arrested him. Josh, first to you, you were arrested because you showed up on campus at a Catholic school for saying that men and women are different. Have we overstated that?
No, that's exactly what happened. They removed me from the building for the remainder of the year, and when I attempted to attend class, I was arrested and charged.
Did you point out that this is a Christian school and that this is like a core Christian idea because it's like in the Christian book, which some call the Bible?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually tried to have that discussion with my administrators, but they refused to do so.
What's your recourse legally in Canada?
Well, it's limited, of course, because our Constitution is much weaker and because there seems to be culturally and legally much less respect for individual rights and freedoms and much more interest in, government having the kind of power to do what it wants.
I mean, Fidel Castro's son takes over your country and all of a sudden it becomes Cuba? It's just shocking. Fidel Castro's son takes over your country and all of a sudden it becomes Cuba? Fidel Castro's son takes over your country. Fidel Castro's son takes over your country.
We'll talk more about forced bastardization later. Some of the Clinton, Zuckerberg, and DeGeneres bloodlines are subsets of the Rockefeller bloodline. The Merovingian bloodline. The Merovingian bloodline comes into modern public attention with Dan Brown's silly thriller novel, The Da Vinci Code. While the book made history, it also made its so-called revelation that Jesus Christ had a family sound like it was a terribly guarded secret. Yawn. The truth is that history has always known that the Merovingian clan, and today literally millions of others, are related to the family of Jesus by being either his exact descendants or that of his half-brothers and sisters, uncles, aunts, and cousins. This was never a historical secret. Today there are literally millions, and honestly maybe billions, of descendants from the Merovingian royal family. So before you get too excited, understand that you are probably a member of this bloodline in some way, and so probably is your next-door neighbor too. Anciently, everybody wanted to be a relative of the Lord in some manner, particularly after millions embraced the Christian church body and believed in his ministry as the promised Messiah to all of Noah's bloodlines. When Christianity fully embraced the Greek language over the Hebrew, the word that was used to label the close family of Jesus Christ was the desponsine, which literally means of the family of the master. You don't have to take our word for that. Clear back in the 3rd century, Sextus Julius Africanus, an early Christian scholar, wrote about them saying that the blood family of Jesus Christ was still alive then, openly known, and still among the people. These are not hidden secret writings. You can go and read them yourself right now if you weren't so distracted by your former high school sweetheart's nephew's cousin's latest posting on Farcebook. You know the one where he shows you how many nachos folklorico he can shove in his mouth while not expanding his waistline. Wait till he's over 40. His metabolism will slow down too.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
You don't have to take Sextus's word for it either. The Bible clearly teaches of them and says that several were leaders in the church once they too accepted that their half-brother was the promised Son of God, just as their mother Mary had told them that he was. The Bible tells us that the Lord's half-brother James was an important Christian leader in Jerusalem, likely the bishop, and was killed by the Jews for his testimony. It is believed that Saul, who became Paul when he converted, assented to James's stoning. Historian Hegesippus confirms that James was executed by the Sanhedrin in 62 AD. It is believed that he was buried on Gamaliel's property after Gamaliel also converted, due likely to the testimony of Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, who were his friends and social equals. Gamaliel was one of the mentors of Saul, who converted to Paul. We also know that the Herods had the records of Jesus' personal family burned out of the civil records, not unlike Hitler did to his own in Germany. Herod wanted to remove any paper trail about the Desposini. We could talk about this at great length, but have other names to summarize, so we'll come back to this at another time. But just know that many occultists want Merovingian blood.
In tropical climes there are certain times of day when all the citizens retire to take their clothes off and perspire. It's one of those rules the greatest fools obey, because the sun is far too sultry and one must avoid its ultraviolet ray. The natives grieve when the white men leave their huts, because they're obviously, definitely nuts. But mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday, 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 out in the midday sun.
The Rothschild Bloodline. The Rothschilds are one of the easiest families to write about. Their great wealth in banking and media has made them more difficult to hide. They have countered their exploits under the Luciferian law of karma. In short, this law of Lucifer says that in order to extend your power while hiding in the open, you have to balance all of your evil acts with equal acts of good. Thus, through the various good deeds done by this bloodline, they are quick to charge any attacks upon them for the evil things they do as being anti-Semitism. The Rothschild family is Semitic, but the truth is that they claim their right to rule over Israel from the fact that they descend from their red shield father, Esau. They, like the Rockefellers, have practiced forced bastardization over the centuries. We'll discuss the red childs of Esau in more detail when we discuss banking, the Federal Reserve, and the Napoleonic Wars.
For friends! For friends! For friends!
Some of the Marx, Hitler, and Elephantis bloodlines are subsets of the Rothschild bloodline. The Russel Bloodline. The Russel family came from German Jews who went by the surname Russel. When they relocated in Scotland, they changed the spelling of it to better fit with Scottish sensibilities. When the British Crown wanted to take over control of Ireland, they pushed the Protestant Scots to become illegal immigrants into Ireland to take the country over so as to control the Irish in time. Does that sound familiar, anyone? The satanic side of the Russell family moved to Ireland, bringing the Scottish Mason rite with them as cover. The Illuminati realized that if they could infiltrate Masonry, which was already an organized semi-secret society, they could infiltrate everywhere. The plan was rather ingenious. Since Masonic levels only functioned on a need-to-know basis, with lower tiers having to put blind trust in the tiers above them, junior members knew little to nothing about what was going on above them. Masonry functioned on the belief that they had inherited what was left of the sacred rites of Solomon's temple. While modern Masons claim today that they don't believe that, it is important to understand that all Masons before 1930 did believe it, and emphatically. In fact, they claimed that they were all that was left of the ancient rites of Solomon. They lamented, in point of fact, that over the centuries they had lost the last great secret of those that had been passed down. And so they simply chose to call this missing information the Mahabone. Pull out the sacred Bet, and you have Mahan, Mahan, the forbidden secret. To make all this history simpler, and it's not simple, What basically happened is that the Russel Bloodline, with others, founded a super special Masonic lodge blessed by the Rothschild Bank of England. Due to their great wealth and ability to make any obedient in the lodge rich, they started the rumor that they held the upper secrets. Curiosity soon killed the cat, as Masons fell for the ruse, and/or wanted to believe that lodges such as these were the 4th, 5th, 9th, 13th, 33rd, 666th level of pure Masonic secrets. It works just like the Mafia. Soldiers at the bottom level move up their ranks if they please their upper-ups. If they don't, they never learn the deep and important secrets of the levels above them. Needless to say, it was not long before these illuminated Masonic lodges were in control of all the other lodges. It is said that the 33rd level of Masonic rites is today level 1 of the Illuminati. Here is the text of the last instruction given to 32nd degree Masons before some were offered the chance, for a large fee, to enter the secret 33rd level, with some occasional obnoxious, enlightened commentary to help open your eyes.
You are here to learn, if you can learn, and to remember what you have been taught. In the Scottish Rite, you will be taught that our ancient ancestors, who knew all the mysteries, left enough traces so that we today, with diligent labor and teaching, may renew them and bring them to light for your enlightenment. We now come to the great symbol of Pythagoras. Our symbols have descended to us from the Aryans, and many were invented by Pythagoras, who studied in Egypt and Babylon. In order to preserve the great truths learned from the profane, there were invented some of our symbols that represent the profoundest of truths descended to us from our white ancestors. Many have been lost as was the true word at the death of our Grand Master, Hiram Abiff. The ancient masters invented some of these symbols to express the result of deity. They did not attempt to name him, but rather tried to express their reverence by describing him as Ahura Mazda. Spirit of light.
They mean the light bringer, the bringer of light. Lucifer, Satan, is the light bringer.
They conceived the idea that Ahura had 7 potencies, or emanations. 4 of these they thought of as male, and 3 female.
LGBTQL plus, I don't like you either.
The 4 male potencies of Ahura, by which he governed the universe, were the divine might, the divine wisdom, the divine word, and the divine sovereignty. The 3 female potencies were productiveness, health, and vitality. Look to the east, my brothers, and behold the 7-pointed star, the great symbol of this degree.
Game of Thrones fans might remember the religion called the Seven. Here's the High Sparrow from the show explaining it.
The gods didn't abandon us in silence, but gave us their holy words to guide us, collected in the oldest and holiest text of the faith of the 7, the 7-pointed star. Divided into 7 books for the 7 aspects of God, in it we learn of the Father's justice, the Mother's mercy, the Maiden's innocence, the Crone's wisdom, the Warrior's strength, the Smith's labor, and the Stranger's peace. It is a long book.
So is George's.
every warrior carved a 7-pointed star into his body, for even that was easier than carving its namesake into his mind. Though one could perhaps argue that it wasn't the warriors, but the septons and scepters, armed with the holy text of the 7-pointed star, who truly conquered Westeros. The first men had no letters, but the runes they would scratch onto rocks. No gods, but the faces they would carve into trees. But then came our holy men and women among them, bearing the very words of the gods under their arms. Trees and rocks were no match for the 7-pointed star, and most of Westeros soon turned to the faith and to its guardians, their new Andal overlords, bound together by the 7-pointed star. When those kingdoms fell to Aegon and his dragons thousands of years later, the faith remained subject only to the 7 above and the 7-pointed star below. Or so it was supposed to be. No matter. We still have the 7-pointed star. Men's will and virtue may fail, but the words never do. As men bow to their lords and lords to their kings, so kings and queens must bow before the 7 who are one. The knees of the powerful work the same as the knees of the weak, and were given to all for the same purpose, to bend before the gods, or break in the bending.
4 males, 3 females in one. Did you hear all the Illuminati buzzwords in this mythos? Let's continue.
With the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors and 7 points represent the 7 potencies of Ahura.
You mean the 4 males, Father, Warrior Smith, and the Stranger? And the 3 females, the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone? See how they pre-program us?
Observe now the great delta of Pythagoras, consisting of 36 lights arranged in 8 rows to form an equilateral triangle. The light at the apex of the delta represent Ahura Mazda, source of all light. This represents the 7 remaining potencies of Ahura. The right angle triangle of 3 lights around the altar represents the famous 47th proposition of Euclid, or the Pythagorean theorem, which is used to conceal and reveal philosophical truths. The real significance of the cross is that of Ahura and his 4 male emanations emanating from him.
Warning, bullshit alert!
The 4 animals of the prophet Ezekiel represent these same 4 male emanations.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Man, the divine word, the eagle, divine wisdom, the bull, divine might, and the lion, divine sovereignty. Every equilateral triangle is a symbol of Trinity, as are all groups of 3 in the lodge, as the sun, the moon, and their worshipful master, and the sacred and mystic symbol AUM of the Hindus, whose origin and meaning no one here knows.
Now note, they say that no one knows the meaning, and now they will proceed to tell us the meaning that nobody, including them, knows.
The great trinity of the Aryans was symbolized by the adepts. Among the Hindus, it is symbolized the supreme god of gods, the Brahmins, because of its awful and sacred meaning, hesitated to pronounce it aloud, and when doing so, placed a hand in front of the mouth to deaden the sound. The trilateral name for God is composed of 3 Sanskrit letters. The first letter A stands for the creator, Brahma. The second letter U for Vishnu, the preserver. The third letter M for Siva, the destroyer. AUM it is, ineffable, Not because it cannot be pronounced, but because it is pronounced All these things, which you can learn by study, concentration, and contemplation, have come down to us from our ancient ancestors through Zarathustra or Zoroaster and Pythagoras. You have reached the mountain peak of Masonic instruction, a peak covered by a mist, which you, in search for further light, can penetrate only by your own efforts. Now we hope you will study diligently the lessons of all our degrees, so that there will be nurtured within you a consuming desire to pierce the pure white light of Masonic wisdom.
In other words,
And before we let you go, let me give you a hint. And that is all that the greatest mystics ever give. The hint is in the royal secret.
Oh boy!
It is there that you may learn to find that light. Yes, brothers, the hint is in the royal secret.
Pay very close attention to this secret.
The true word, man, born of a double nature, of what we call good and what we call evil, spiritual and earthly, mortal and immortal, finds the purpose of his being only when these two natures are in perfect harmony.
This is the Luciferian law of karma. Lucifer believes that his greatest contribution to humanity was the knowledge of good and evil that he gave to our mother Eve first, and then to our father Adam. He makes it very clear that one cannot be whole unless one learns to sin, and that sinner embraces the sin with one eye shut. He calls this harmony. It's the same that the Lord calls being neither hot nor cold. Lucifer's obvious goal is to get God to spit you out of his mouth, yuck, and into hell.
One time, we successfully mated a bulldog with a Shih Tzu. Yeah, we called it a bullshit.
Harmony, my brethren, harmony is the true word and the royal secret which makes possible the empire of true Masonic brotherhood.
These set up many recruitment clubs for kids, teens, and young adults that were established to help groom youngins for the natural progression into the satanic branches of Masonry, one step at a time. The Russel Bloodline helped organize all of these in some manner. The De Molay Society,
oh boy,
the Job's Daughters, the Owl and Key Club, the Skull and Bones Society, among others. The Russel Bloodline has been prominent in leadership and or founding roles with the York Rite of the Masonic Knights Templar, the Pony Express, the Irish Theosophist Lodge, the Lodge of the Golden Dawn, the Lodge of Isis, the Royal Society of Edinburgh, the India Matras Masonic Club, the Fabian Society, and the Jehovah's Witnesses. Once again, we state that it is unfair and inaccurate to assume that everyone who bears the name of an Illuminati bloodline is a member of the organization. Perhaps the Simpsons said it best.
You're like a flower that grew out of a pot of dirt.
Now we still have 3 more bloodlines to explore. What, you cry? If you have been paying attention and are not a product of America's new math as taught to our poor children in our public schools, that is, you would say that you told us there were 13 bloodlines, and we have explored 13. So how can there be 3 more? 3 plus 13 is 16, not 13. Unless you use new math and are one of those children who can't be left behind, then maybe it works. All we can answer is that you're too smart for your own good, and that it's always the smart ones who go to the guillotine first. We will explain this conundrum in our next episode, when we finally keep our promise and discuss the Judas Clause. Then we will also better explain this recent confession.
Okay guys, the time has come. I'm just gonna break it quick, clean, get it done with. Doesn't matter that I signed a blood oath. Doesn't matter anymore. The Illuminati's real. I'm a member. It's how Imagine Dragons got famous. I'm tired of the politics. This puts me at great risk putting this out here and telling you guys this, but I believe in full honesty, and Beyonce is not talking, Chris Martin, nobody's saying a word, so there it is, there. I'm going to give you all the details as quick as I can. The president, Elon Musk, vice president, Harry Styles, treasurer, Beyonce, Taylor Swift is historian, and that's all I know. That's all I know.
Back through the water curtain. Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Masters Mahan will continue.